I've made over $10 million in selling real estate over the last 20 years. And if I wanted to make $1 million a year, this is exactly how I do it. So starting off in my first year, we're at what I call level 1. And this is purely just the effort phase. You're just using sweat equity to go out there and earn the business. Now, my focus here in level 1 would be on one lead generation channel. I wouldn't spread myself thin like I see so many new realtors do. When I start working with them, I start coaching them. I've got so many new clients that come to me and they're working on so many different lead pillars that none of them are working. It's like less is more. It's addition by subtraction. And all I'd be doing here is I'd be focusing on one channel or one client acquisition channel in the beginning, in that very first year. And it would all be unpaid outbound lead generation. So specifically, just because I'm trying to earn cash flow in that first year, I would go after what we would call bottom of funnel business. Okay. So if we just look at a typical sales funnel, all I'd be doing is going after the bottom here. And so this is really these are bloody waters down here. There's a lot of competition, but I'd have to go after that business because I'd want to generate the income as fast as possible. So I'd be going after things like new expired listings, new for sale by owners, old expired listings, and it'd be all just through sheer effort, right? So I'd mainly call them. I'd probably go and door knock them, and it wouldn't be through that effort. I can generate 10 deals. Average deal size is $10,000 to generate that 100K with inside of that first year. So level 1, pretty simple, nothing really to it. Now, let's talk about level 2 for a second. So inside of level 2, this is where I would, what I call skills and systems. This is where I'd be investing in high level skills, because if I just change nothing, my pipeline is going to start to mature. So all the conversations and all the people that I'd put into my database, a lot of those would actually manifest into transactions into my second year, which is what we see from a lot of the agents that I work with. It's like, okay, well, that first year is just all, like I said, pure effort. And a lot of those conversations you're having in your first year might not turn into transactions your first year. A lot of them will come over to your second year, right? So that pipeline maturity finally starts to kick in. The other thing is you start to have higher conversion. So I'd still only be focused on one pillar of business. I just get really, really good at it. I'm not going to diversify my energy or my focus like so many agents do. And just by getting to level 2 with my skills and my system and going deeper into my follow-up systems, my lead generation. Now I've got some calls. Maybe I've got some direct mail going to those same sources of business. Now I've got some video texting. Now my follow-up is a lot tighter. I can go to 25 deals my second year, no problem, which will get me somewhere around $250,000 in income. Again, focused on just one pillar of business right now. Not diversifying. I'm not, there's no shiny object. I'm just focused and I've got a lot of discipline. All right. So now let's go to level 3. So in level 3, this is what I call, so when I coach a real estate agent, I say, this is our level 3. This is leadership. So level 3 starts to introduce a new skill set. All right. So this is where we're going to start hiring some people. All right. And so the first hire that we are going to make is a licensed assistant. Yeah, you can mess around with part-time, non-licensed assistants and part-time transaction coordinators. But if you're going to really do this thing right and follow this 5-year framework, I think the best way to do it is to hire a full-time licensed assistant who can handle all of your showings. Okay. This is an assistant. This is not a salesperson. Okay, we're going to talk later in this video the difference between what I call the revenue model versus the ego model. So we're building the revenue model, how to generate the highest level of income. Okay, so we're going to hire a licensed assistant who in the beginning is going to handle your showings, your listing coordination, your closing coordination, things of that nature. Okay. Now, they're also going to handle your database system, which is going to be the second lead generation pillar that we put in place. So this is where we put in an actual proactive marketing system to go out there and communicate with past clients and centers of influence to start building that business model that most realtors want the most, which is the repeat and referral business. So in my third year, I'm really going to focus on that. That'll be one of the pillars of business that I have my licensed assistant focus on, in addition to the other aspects of my business, so that I can free up more time, so I can get more time to double down on my lead generation. Okay. And so simply put, because when you hire this licensed assistant and call it $50,000, which is average of what it would cost you to get a good assistant, that could be the best investment you've ever made in your business. This should allow you to almost, at least it was for me, double your income, because they're taking so much of the non-dollar producing activities off of your plate. We just talked about them. Showing property being one of the biggest ones to buyers. You're still working with buyers here. You're just no longer showing property. So you've got a licensed assistant handling all your showings, doing all of your listing coordination, doing all of your transaction or closing coordination. You're getting out of all of that. And the licensed assistant puts into place your sphere of influence, past client marketing plan. They're the ones executing on that plan. All of that's going to generate more business, and then more importantly, free you up to do more outbound lead generation. This is where you're still doing direct outbound directly to the consumer. And so this is where you're focusing your time. And so maybe after you get that licensed assistant, let's just say you were able to, before in level 2, maybe you were able to do 3 hours per day of outbound prospecting. And now that you've got a full-time licensed assistant that's taking a lot off your plate, maybe you can up that now to 5 hours. So 2 more hours plus a new lead generation pillar, you should be able to get between $250,000 to $500,000 in your third year if you follow this model. All right. Now let's go to level 4 or your fourth year. Okay. So here's what's happening. Here's the exact model that I would follow in my fourth year. So we call level 4 leverage, because that's exactly what's going on here. So what we're doing here is, number 1, we're adding or hiring an ISA, and we're going to hire an assistant for your assistant. So these are 2 additional hires. And so now your assistant can split up the duties and leverage out of some listing coordination, leverage out of some closing coordination, leverage out of some of the database, because at level 4 is when we're training the executive assistant to take more off of our plate. What specifically? We are going to exit delivery. So in our business of real estate sales, in the beginning, you're kind of responsible for everything, right? You're responsible for lead generation, lead conversion, client onboarding, client fulfillment, client retention. You're kind of responsible for the entire thing, right? So in level 4, we're going to get you out of that delivery altogether. In other words, you're going to focus only on, here, let's do this. You're only going to be focused on 2 things: lead generation and presenting. So in this level 2, this is all we really want the agent to be doing. So we want you to be lead generating and going on presentations, and then your assistant is going to take you out of the delivery. So they're going to take care of all offer negotiations. So all offers that are getting submitted on your listings or all offers that need to be presented to buyers is your executive assistant handling that. All client updates, all negotiations. I'm talking about both inspections and appraisals. So we're getting you out of all client delivery work in level 4. Your only focus is on the 2 money-making activities in your business at level 4, which should get you to this point. Okay, you should be able to get to you should be able to go from $500 to $1 million here. And if you look at the group you've created, it's a revenue group. It's the doctor nurse relationship. You don't have a bunch of realtors on the team. No, we're not doing that at all. It's you, right? It's you. Plus, you've got your executive assistant, and maybe they have an assistant. So you've got your second assistant here. 4, you've got your ISA, which again, half sales, half admin, doing now some of that lead generation. Okay. Now let's go to the 5th year. So this is where in your 5th year, we call this you being the actual CEO of your business now. This is where you should be able to actually exit production. Okay. And I missed one thing here. So in level 4, so we're leveraging completely out of the buy side too. So let me just add that on here. So you're going to get completely out of the buy side. So you got full time buyer agent. Okay. So you got full-time buyer agent. At level 5 now, you're exiting production 100%. So the way we're going to do that is you've already exited out of, in level 4, a lot of the outbound lead generation. You were just going on presentations and some of the lead generation. Now you're fully out of production because we're going to now add a listing partner. So this is going to be a full-time salaried position. And oh, by the way, all of these are salaried positions. So when I'm talking about bringing these people on, executive assistant, they're on a salary. Salary, ISA, salary, full-time buyer's agent, salary. We'll talk about the P&L in just a second. So now you're going to add on a listing partner. This is a salaried employee of your organization. We're not talking about hiring your competition and you teach them everything and then they leave you in a year because now they're not doing any of that. We're hiring somebody full-time. We're paying them a really good salary to service your clients, your book of business. You have to think about this model like you were building, like you were a dentist building out your dentistry practice, where you are the doctor and the practice is growing, not because you're hiring 15 other dentists who are all competing against you. No, you're hiring a bunch of dental hygienists, a bunch of assistants, a bunch of front desk secretary, people calling the insurance companies, et cetera, et cetera. That's how we're growing this. In addition, at level 5, we're now going to put in an inbound branding system. So now we're going to put in, so you've got outbound working. You've got all the outbound lead generation working for the last 4 or 5 years, and you have fully delegated that, okay? Because at this moment in time, you probably have yourself. So you are the CEO, and then you're going to have your full-time executive assistant. You've got a second assistant. You've got your buyer agent. You've got your listing partner, and you probably have 2 ISAs doing a lot of the lead generation, right? So when we look at these 5 levels, this is where you can get to $1 million plus in income. This is where you're selling 100 plus homes per year, like no problem. This is you selling 100 plus homes a year without you being in production, right? So watch what's next. So when we look at this, okay, so when we look at this model, and I built both of these, so I'm speaking from experience, okay? So check this out. These are really the 2 options to really scale your real estate business, okay? So if we're looking at apples to apples, and we're saying, okay, we've got to do 150 sales at $10,000 a piece to earn $1.5 million. Here's what these 2 things look like, all right? So this is the revenue model versus the ego model. I just kind of walked you through what this would look like on the revenue model, right? So you've got a listing partner who we would pay $150,000 salary, okay? You'd have your executive assistant who's earning about an $80,000 salary. You've got a listing coordinator or another admin who's earning $50,000. You've got a buyer agent who's earning $100,000 salary, or we'll call it total compensation because you might have some bonuses, et cetera. But this is not like agents that are on 100% commission. They're servicing your clients, your book of business. And then 2 ISAs, so inside salespeople that all they do is hit the phone all day and set appointments for your buyer's agent and your listing partner. Those are about $50,000 a piece. So if we look at that on a $1.5 million top line revenue business, that leaves you with $1 million in gross margin or gross profit, which is 65 to 70% margins, which is a super, super, super healthy business. If you compare that, and this is so funny, I just started working with a team leader, and literally this is like pretty close to his numbers, and this is what my numbers were too, is if you build an ego-based team to scale your business, it's even worse if you build a brokerage, but we're talking about if you build a team, okay? The ego team, I'll call it. So on the ego team model, to do 150 deals, and the per person productivity on average is a deal per month per agent, okay? This is giving you the benefit of the doubt that your team is producing more than most. You're going to need 13 agents to do that. On average, they're on a 50-50 split. So of the $1.5 million, they're going to obviously earn $750,000 of the 1.5 that comes in, right? So a $10,000 commission check comes in, you get half, they get half. Pretty simple. You've got 2 admins probably to run that team. Again, cost is going to be somewhere around $50,000 each. Now, you're going to have to furnish these agents with leads. That's why they're with you. And so cost per acquisition, we see on any type of lead buy is about $1,500 per closed transaction. And that's probably low. Most team leaders that would watch this, or most agents that have most team leaders that have agents on their team, that's probably pretty low. They're probably paying more than that. But $1,500 to acquire a closed transaction, if you're buying leads, so on 150 sales, $1,500 a pop, that's $225,000 in ad spend, in leads, which is what a lot of these people are spending. $15,000, $20,000, sometimes $30,000 a month. You're going to need ISAs to call those because your agents won't. Just plain and simple. I'll be very matter of fact. Your agents won't call them. Look at this. This is going to leave you with $225,000 on a top line revenue business of $1.5 million. Why? This model, the ego model, is on like 10 to 15% margins. And any team leader would tell you that's what it is. The margins, I mean, at best is 20%. At best is 20%. And so there's just no money. And not to mention that there's no money. My biggest problem with this model by far is the complexity. Well, AKA we'll call the complexity, it's so funny, brain damage. I mean, you got to babysit these agents, which is the absolute worst thing ever. Like the babysitting of the agents and then the training of the competition is a revolving door. Agents are with you for a year, year and a half, and then they leave. They're with you for 6 to 12 months, and then they leave. And so if I was going to go back and do this thing all over again, I've been doing this now for 20 years. I've messed it all up, believe me. I've messed up the whole thing. I would go back and build a production-based business model where it was my book of business, it was my sales practice that I was building with my brand, my clients, and I would hire an administrative team to support my production, an administrative team to build my sales practice. Call it the orthopedic surgeon who has a team of nurses around him or her. That's the model that I see work the most. And so when I work with an agent and I help them scale from 100,000 to 200,000 to 500,000 to $1 million or more in top line commissioned earned income, this is the model that I work through with them because it's the most profitable. It's the most profitable, and it's the cleanest business model with the least amount of headache and bullshit to deal with. And so hopefully this makes sense, right? So we go back to, just to recap, you've got all these different levels, right? You got level 1 we talked about, level 2, level 3, level 4 where you're starting to get a lot more leverage, level 5 where you become the actual CEO of your business. And then we talked about the difference between these two models. And so you think about it, but I would tell you through personal experience that hiring a bunch of agents and doing the ego thing, that I don't know why so many people keep running to that model. They would all, I think, probably tell you the same thing. It is way more difficult than they thought it was going to be to manage salespeople. And it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. So the way to leverage and to actually go from solopreneur or solo salesperson to actual business owner, where you have high levels of leverage, high levels of income, and you can exit the business stress-free. This is the model.